Hey guys, I am back with another entrepreneur story time for you today. This one is going to be a bit juicy and it might surprise you.
There's no stopping me now. I know my shot. Sit down. Money's all over me. I'm called to be rich and be free.
Welcome back to my channel. I am Ebony Evaughn, your go-to business operations strategist, here to help you grow your business through people and processes. Now today we're going to take a step back from talking about the tech stacks, the systems, workflows, and processes, and I'm going to give you a juicy story time. I think this is the first time I've done a story time since my whole Pinterest manager debacle situation. Today I'm taking you behind the scenes for a juicy story time about a time when I had to fire a high profile $26,000 client. Yes, we know $26,000 ain't no measly coins, right? And it's not something to take lightly. But trust me, by the end of the story, you will know why I fired this client, because it was not worth the headache, all right? So just to give you some background context and information going into this whole situation, actually, what's interesting is this person reached out to me through Upwork, is how they found me. And I want to say I was doing a day in a life video like back in March, April time frame when this person actually reached out to me, and it was in my vlog because I was so surprised that this person knew who I was and reached out to me, because they are a very high profile person in the coaching industry, a professional speaker, author, really high profile. So just the idea and thought of potentially being able to work with this person was amazing to me at the time, at least. Oh my gosh, y'all, I just had a whole fangirl moment. So while I'm sitting here looking at my messages while I am in a drive-thru at Dunkin' waiting on my donuts and coffee, and why do I have a message from someone who I really admire, and I'm just like, the fact that this person is asking me about my business management services, say what? The fact that this person even knows that I exist is crazy to me. And the idea of working together, I'm trying to be professional and respond okay, yeah, I know who you are. But on the inside, I am like, oh my God, yes, oh my God, just a thought. But anyways, I'm going to follow up and reply to this message, and then we're going to get back to the other things that we need to get done today. So as you can see, that was a clip from the previous vlog that I did. I will leave it up in the pinned comment if you guys want to go check out the full vlog and get more context and details. But essentially, this person reached out to me. We set up a call, and on this call, this person reached out and was like, I'm looking for, an online business manager, someone who is tech savvy and understands systems and processes. And that's literally what I do, right? So I'm like, okay, this is going to be a perfect fit. So we jumped on a call, and she asked me questions about different tech systems I was used to working with, like Keep, Infusionsoft, 𝗪𝗏𝗪, ManyChat, different apps and systems like that, because she was looking for someone who had insight and had built, integrations and workflows within these tools before, who could do it without a huge learning curve. And I'm like, yeah, I've done with all of that. I had used everything at this time except for Keep, which was her CRM, right? So on our call, we're talking about tech. We didn't talk about really anything else at all. On the call, she did say that her previous OBM was had gotten sick and was no longer there. She had to leave abruptly. So as we're having this conversation, we're talking about tech, right? And so we didn't talk about any customer service, inbox management, front end, calendar appointments, bookings, none of that stuff. So typically when people reach out to me and they say they're looking for an OBM, I will tell them I'm not a OBM in a traditional sense of like an online business manager who manages like your day-to-day operations from the front end, right? I am more of a business operations manager, and I focus on your back end systems and processes and workflows so that the front end people can effectively do their jobs. But because our entire conversation was based on like tech stacks, what tech tools I had used before, different apps I had experience with, and what she was looking for, which was integrations to set up 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏, ManyChat, and some other things, right? So I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like, this is right up my alley. So we get off of the call, and then she's like, okay, I'm going to talk to a couple more people, and then I'll make a decision. I'll let you know by early next week. So early next week comes, and she's like, you know, I really want to move forward with you because I noticed that you are very tech savvy. You understand systems and processes, and that is what I'm looking for because I need someone who can get these apps and software up and running. So I'm like, okay, cool. She let me back up and go back to our initial call. So on our initial call, she did also say that because the OBM left abruptly, now the virtual assistant was kind of filling both roles, doing the stuff the previous OBM used to do, as well as the front end, kind of like inbox management stuff, typical administrative VA stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. And she's like, well, the VA is going to be leaving at the end of the month as well, so I'm going to have you work with her, and like she'll teach you how to do things. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so at this point, every conversation that we've had has been about the tech stack, the tech integrations. And so I'm assuming she's doing these interviews to hire someone to fill the OBM role, but she was also doing a separate set of interviews to replace the virtual assistant that she knew was leaving at the end of the month as well. So fast forward to the top of the next week, we sign our agreement, we talk about hours, we agree that I'm going to work 10 hours per week to focus on setting up these tech integrations for 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏, ManyChat, and other tech systems that may need to be optimized. And also there may be like creating SOPs or things like that that need to be done as well, which I'm fine with. I do SOPs all the time, right? So fast forward to the top of the next week. This is the last week of March. This is my first official week, and this is the virtual assistant's official full last week, right? And so she's like, I want you guys to kind of coordinate so she can show you around, let you see inside like the customer support tool that they use, and just help me get orientated to like this whole agency and the setup, right? So the first week I started working with the virtual assistant. She's showing me different things. So at this moment, I'm still not thinking nothing. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, I wonder when the other virtual assistant is going to come, right? Or maybe she hasn't hired that person yet. They're going to be starting soon. So it's going to be good for me to know these things. So in the event that I need to, I can show the new virtual assistant how to navigate these different apps and tools. So we continue through the week. The virtual assistant is showing me how to do various different things. The end of the week comes and there's no new person, no virtual assistant. I'm like, dang, like this is the current virtual assistant's last day. Like, when is the new person going to start? And I'm like, well, maybe they're going to start the next Monday, top of the week, like I did. So the virtual assistant, her last day is at Friday. Like, we say bye. I appreciate her for like showing me how to do things or whatever, telling her she was very helpful or whatever. So fast forward to the next Monday, and I'm ready to like get started with the integrations and things that I need to do as far as setting up 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏, setting up some ManyChat workflows. And that Monday, before I even could wake up, all I got on my phone from like 4 a.m. in the morning was constant Voxer notifications. So I don't know if you're familiar with a Voxer, but Voxer is essentially kind of like this walkie-talkie app, and it allows you to communicate kind of in real time with someone. And I use this all the time, right? I've been using Voxer for years. Even when I was doing coaching, when I had private one-on-one coaching clients, like I would give them access to me on Voxer so they could like send a quick question. Instead of going back and forth in email, it's easier to just like send an audio recording, right? And so literally from 4 a.m. that morning, this is what my phone was sounding like. The whole time. And I'm like still trying to get my sleep on, so I don't even pay any attention to it. So when I finally do wake up and I look at my phone, I have like 10 Voxer messages from this lady, and all of these messages are like, oh, I have this podcast today and I don't see a link on my calendar. You can't go find the link yourself? Like, I am not your virtual assistant, lady. Like, you hire me for 10 hours per week to build your tech stack. I'm a behind the scenes person. I don't do appointments, calendar management, customer service, none of that. Like, that is not my thing. So when I check my phone, I have literally voice messages where she's asking me so many questions back to back. Where's the link for this podcast interview? Can you make a note for me to send a thank you gift to so-and-so for introducing me to this person? Can you do this? Like, so many, like, just things to do back to back to back to back to back. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? And so as the day went on, I did my best to try to manage this. I'm like, okay, so obviously there's no other virtual assistant that is coming right now. So let me do my best to just try to fill in the gaps until then. So I ended up, this is like my full week working by myself. I ended up spending like 20 hours this week when I was only contracted to do 10 hours building tech stacks. I spent about 20 hours literally managing this person's calendar, looking up links for them, making notes, penciling things in, responding to their customer service inbox. And that was all my time. I didn't even have time to focus on setting up ThriveCart or working on ManyChat optimizations and workflows like I thought I was going to be doing. And in addition to this, so going back to our initial meeting, I let her know that my standard working hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Even though I am in Central Time, I'm in Texas, I still operate my business on East Coast time because the majority of my clients are on the East Coast, so it's just easier that way. So I let her know I'm available Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and I don't work on Fridays unless it's by appointment only and with advance notice. So my first full week there, when we get to Friday, I finally made it to the week. I've worked about 20 hours at this point doing customer service, managing the inbox, responding to customers. And then on Friday, this lady is like, oh, like I want to set up these podcast interviews and interview some of my previous clients and, you know, kind of help me come up with how I want to move forward and the new program that she was working on. And so I'm like, okay. And then she's like, oh, consider this a launch, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, I already told this lady that I don't work on Fridays unless it's like with advance notice. And she was like, well, what if I have a lunch or something going on? I'm like, well, if you have a lunch and it's going to go through the weekend, I'm fine with working on the weekend with advance notice, and I could kind of plan ahead for it. So typically, in my business, I like to reserve Fridays for my own personal development. And then because I am also a digital nomad, oftentimes when I'm traveling, like I like to go out and explore and plan excursions and activities on Fridays instead of me having to focus on work. So she's like, oh yeah, just consider this a launch, right? And this is like high priority because I want to do these interviews on Tuesday. So it's Friday, and this lady wants me to set up a Calendly basically to book appointments, set up a questionnaire so people can fill out questions before they come to their interview. And then she also wants me to set up emails to send out for reminders or confirmation once they book their podcast slot time with the link, follow-up emails and all this other stuff on a Friday so that she can start sending these out on Monday. Then at this point, I'm like, okay, like this is a very high profile person. She's probably used to being in a fast-paced environment, and I'm just going to do the best I can to navigate the situation the best that I can. And so I ended up working on Friday, spending my entire Friday trying to set up this entire booking workflow to be able to schedule these podcast interviews. And then I spend my whole day doing that, and then I send it to her to review, and then she doesn't even review it over the weekend because she's like, it's her family time, and she'll look at it on Monday. And I'm like, okay, so your family time is important, but my time isn't, when I already told you I don't work on Fridays. So this was essentially the first red flag for me, because I'm like, okay, this person obviously does not value my time at all, and they feel like their time is more important than mine. But this is still kind of like my second week, so I'm like, let me just go with the flow, and then next week I'll have a conversation with her about like how things are going. So fast forward to the next Monday, she's finally away from her family time and has a chance to look at the booking system and stuff that I set up for the podcast interviews. And she's like, oh, I need to test out how this podcasting platform works. So like, do you have time for me to just test it out so I know how it works whenever I get ready for my podcast? I know like how to start the recording, like how to navigate through the system that she was using, right? So I'm like, sure, yeah. So Monday morning, we scheduled this time to test out the podcasting platform so she knows how to work it for her interviews. And then while we're on this, she asks me, like, how's it going? And then I let her know. I'm like kind of happy that she asked me this. And I'm like a straightforward person, right? I believe that open communication can solve 90% of the conflicts and issues that most people have within a workplace setting, right? So when she asked me how things are going, I'm like, well, actually, I'm a little overwhelmed at this moment, because when I had my initial call with you, we talked about me setting up tech stack, working on 𝗪𝗏 and ManyChat and these other tech systems. And I haven't had the opportunity to actually work on those things because I've been spending the majority of my time managing the inbox, adding things to your calendar, and just kind of responding to your demands and whatever she decides she wants to vox me in that moment, right? And so she responded back and she was like, oh, I hear you. She was like, yeah. She said, I plan to hire another virtual assistant soon, but I can't do it at this moment. Like right now, I'm not in a position to hire someone. I have other things going on. So it's only you. So at this point, I'm like, well, if it's only me, I'm only contracted to work 10 hours per week. And that's to work on kind of the behind the scenes tech stack and integrations. Like I've been spending 20 hours just managing the front end customer support box and calendar appointments and things like that. I was like, so if I'm going to be expected to do these things, then I think we need to revisit the contract and increase the hours, because I can't in 10 hours, like it's just impossible to do this, because at this point, this lady really needs someone who is like working 30 hours, if not full-time executive assistant, with the amount of demands that she had for this person or for this role. And so she's like, yeah, I hear you, but I would rather just stick to the contract that we have. So I'm like, okay, if we're going to stick to the contract that we have, I'm going to work my 10 hours per week, and that's going to be it. So before this, I was still working like 15 to 20 hours per week trying to do all the things. And so essentially at this point, I'm like, I have to shift how I move forward from here. So I'm only going to work my 10 hours that I've agreed upon for this project. What gets done, what doesn't, right? And so every day, all through the day, she would send me boxers, add things in the project management tool. She will also, send things through the night while I was sleeping, so I would wake up with a ever-growing to-do list. And so at this point, every morning, I would go through the to-do list of all the things that she sent that need to be done, and then I would send it back to her and be like, okay, this is a list of things that I have. What are their priorities for today? And I would want her to tell me, what do you want me to work on first, essentially. So that's what I would do. Whatever she said was a priority, that's where I started. And whatever I got to, I got to. If I didn't, it just went to the list to the next day. And I did the same thing over again. What's the priorities for today? Did what the priorities were. And then once I got to my 10 hours, that was that. And in addition to this, I also use Notion. I created like my own client management portal. And within my client management portal, for every single project that I work on, every single client that I have like a task tracker where I track my time, whether it's a fixed base rate or not. I like to see how I'm spending my time because number one, it helps me to plan accordingly for how I manage my day. But then also if it is something that is based hourly or whatever, then my clients can see how I spent my time. So at this point, I show her like, this is how I spend my time. Once I get to my 10 hours, that's that, right? And so at the end of this week, I literally have spent most of my time managing the podcast interviews that were going on, responding to emails, answering questions about the podcast, and just general customer support tickets that would come up. And so at this point, I'm not even working on any of the tech stuff that I was thinking I was hired to do. So we continue on like this for a few weeks where I'm just sending her what's the priorities and I do the priorities. And so finally, it's the end of the month and she's like, it's the end of the month and we haven't really made a lot of progress on any of the tech integrations that you were expected to complete. And I'm like, well, I didn't get to those tech integrations because I was too busy working on podcasts, adding things to your calendar, sending out gifts, or doing all the other things that you said were priorities. And then I reminded her, like, these were the priorities. This is what you told me to focus on. And then so I went back through what I did. And I was like, if you have any questions about how I'm spending my time or what I've been doing for these past few weeks, you can go into your client portal and you can see what I spent my time on hour by hour. And so at this point, she was like, I think we should switch to a project-based payment schedule instead of hourly. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And the reason why is because the reason why projects were not getting completed wasn't because I just didn't want to do them. It's because she was constantly changing the priorities of what she needed to be done. Instead of me working on the 𝗪𝗏 integration, instead of me working on ManyChat automations, it was always something else that became a bigger priority that she told me to focus on. And in addition to that, oftentimes I would do things and in order for me to finish working on them, I would be waiting on her. For example, like I built a sales page and then after I built the sales page, she's like, you know, I really want to add a VSL to that. And a VSL is like a video sales letter, right? So she wanted to add a video to the sales page. I'm like, all right, I can go back, edit the sales page, add a placeholder for video. Once you record the video, just send it to me. So the first week she's like, oh, I can't record the video this week because I need to get my hair done. So then it rolls around to the next week and she's like, why isn't this done? What's up with the sales page? I'm like, it's waiting on you to record the video. Oh, I can't record a video this week, I'm out of town. So literally the last 2 weeks I've been waiting to finish a sales page because I'm waiting on you to record the video. But then she would make it seem like it was my fault that she hadn't recorded the video. Lady, I've been asking you about this video for 2 weeks. And it was just constant situations like this where priorities were always changing. There was unrealistic expectations, delusion, and then there was never any clear communication. Like this lady spoke in like riddles or indirectly all the time. So for example, like when she did a podcast interview with someone, she was like, oh, like I really enjoyed the connection. I want to send a welcome gift to so-and-so because she introduced me to this person that she did the podcast with. And she was like, can you add a note to the project management tool so that I can send her a welcome gift? So that's exactly what I did. I am a very direct person. So if you tell me add a task in a task manager for you to send a welcome gift, I'm going to add a task in the project management tool for you to send a welcome gift. But then like she wanted me to send the welcome gift, and I guess she had like a SOP for how to send welcome gifts, but I didn't know that. Like, I'm not a mind reader. How am I supposed to know that I'm supposed to send the welcome gift if you don't tell me to send a welcome gift? You said to create a task in a project management tool for you to send a welcome gift, so I assume you're going to send a welcome gift. But it was constant situations like that. So rolling into now June at this point, I have been trying to just keep my head above water, doing what I can to make this client happy. And I realized that regardless of what I do, this person is always complaining. They're never happy. They always have critiques. They don't have any respect for me as a person or my time. She was talking to me crazy at this point, and I was like, it's not worth it. And besides that, at this point, I'm spending so much time focused on catering to this one client that it's impacting how I can show up for other clients that I have. So I ended up just sending her a message and being like, you know what? This isn't working for me. I'm getting burnt out trying to fulfill this obligations. It's not really what I expected. I was expecting to work behind the scenes on more operational stuff when it came to setting up tech integrations and things like that. I'm not a front end business management type of person. And so at this point, I would like to just come to a resolution for how we can tie up loose ends and just kind of move forward. And so she's like, I agree. We definitely need to do that. And so even in the process of tying up loose ends, this lady, like, we agreed on 6 deliverables that I was going to do to tie up loose ends and be done by the end of the month. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to be on vacation, not on vacation, but I'm going to be out of town. I have to speak at this event. And then I have this event. I'm working on a book, so I have to go meet with the publisher. And so I'm trying to tie up this project so I can get back to focusing and prioritizing other clients that I have. And this lady still has zero respect for my time. And she's just like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm done on this date. Like, I'm going to work on these 6 deliverables. I'll deliver it to you by this day. And on this day, I'm going to wash my hands with it. And then she was mad because I did that. The date that I set, I delivered everything 2 days before that to give her time to like look over whatever. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to be at an event, so I won't be able to look at it, but I expect you to be available if I do have questions or need any revisions. No, ma'am. No, you don't. At this point, I'm like, this lady literally has zero respect for other people's time. And she gonna learn today. She gonna learn today. So I ended up sending over my deliverables and be like, this is this, and I am done with this. And so she ended up responding back to me and was like, I wish this could have worked out differently, but please keep in mind and remember that you signed an NDA, and I take me and my family's privacy and security very seriously. And I'm like, first of all, lady, the only reason you have people sign NDAs is probably because you're trash and your company is trash too. And then I'm still going to talk about it anyways. I ain't going to put your name in it, but this story is getting told solely off the fact that you sent this little message talking about you take your family's security and privacy important. I take my security and privacy very seriously too. Like, you're not special. And so I was done with that lady after that. And I have sat on this story for a couple months at this point. And I was like, do I really want to tell this? And I was like, let it marinate. I don't want to tell this story while I'm like mad and upset about it, because I'm going to be name dropping and all type of stuff and really be sassy. But now that it's been a couple months, I'm impartial about it. I don't feel any type of way. I still will never ever fool with this person again. I will not be reading any of their books. I will not be recommending any of their books or any of their content to people. But other than that, I'm just looking at this as a learning experience, because this is another moment of growth and just clarity for me to understand, you know, what I want in clients and what I don't. So often, this is not my first time having a high profile client. I have worked with a lot of well-known, well-respected coaches, YouTubers, social media influencers, public figures. So this isn't my first time working with a person like that. Well, this is my first time working with a person that was this crazy. But it's not my first time working with high profile clients, right? But in this experience, it just taught me, don't get caught up in who someone is, because even if they're well known or, you know, they're respected in an industry, that doesn't mean that they necessarily have good character or good business practices. And you have to take what you see on the surface with a grain of salt. A lot of times when you look on the front end, you see things and they look like they're one way, and on the back end, it's totally different. But this has been a learning experience. It has helped me to further clarify the type of clients that I want to work with and those that I don't. Let me know down in the comments below this video. Have you ever had to fire a client? Let us know the tea down in the comments below this video. As always, thank you guys so much for stopping by my internet home. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on those notifications if you haven't already. So any other time I post a story time like this, you will be the first one to know. All right, bye y'all.